The Dead Man's Digital Shadow. I'm back in my hometown for a funeral, and it forced me to remember him. During my senior year of high school, I spent most of my time in the library. It was the only place with the specific software I needed for coding. Eric always sat in the same spot next to me. He was unnaturally pale, with long black hair obscuring half his face, wearing heavy boots and a worn-out jacket. He never spoke to a soul. The first time I sat down, he looked at me as if I'd just slit someone's throat right in front of him. I buried my face in my bag, and in the silence, I heard his raspy chuckle. Of course. To break the ice, I stammered, "The teacher is brutal with this homework, right?" Eric didn't turn his head. His eyes remained glued to the monitor. "You want the answers, don't you?" His voice sounded like the rustling of dry leaves. "No thanks," I replied nervously. His aura was so heavy I wanted to scream. He laughed again, a guttural, wrong kind of laugh. When I blinked for a second, the chair next to me was empty. He had left a flash drive shaped like a Swiss Army knife. I waited for him, but Eric never showed up at school again. Not the next day, not a month later. He was simply forgotten. Until last week. I needed a drive, and I remembered Eric's gift. Inside was a folder named Computer Science with every answer key. But there was a second folder, Music. It contained only 3 tracks, including the Beatles' Helter Skelter. A third folder held a file named thebest.doc, 10 pages filled entirely with his name, handwritten and scanned, thousands of Eric, Eric, Eric. But I truly felt sick when I opened the Photos folder. There were pictures of emergency escape plans from every single classroom, photos of cigarette butts on the bathroom floor, and a photo of me. I'm reading a book in my English class, a class Eric was never in. The last file was titled Rest in Peace 2. It was empty, as if it were waiting for a date to be added.
Story number 2, Eyes in the Basement Dark. This happened when Allie and I were 12. We were obsessed with the paranormal and believed that evil lived in every old house. My home was exactly that, a Victorian wreck with a damp basement. There were 3 sections, the storage area, the laundry, and the cage, a tiny concrete cell at the very end that everyone was too terrified to enter. That night, around midnight, we decided to go on a hunt. We took my dad's phone with a high-quality camera and headed down. "Is anyone here? Give us a sign," we whispered, the hair on our necks standing on end. When we got back to my room, we watched the footage with disappointment. Nothing, just silence. We decided it was all silly and started playing cards, but that feeling of being watched wouldn't go away. We re-watched the video, cranking the brightness and volume to the max. First, we heard the footsteps, heavy, dragging steps. They had been perfectly in sync with our own, which is why we hadn't noticed them in the basement. Then the camera panned toward Allie. Behind her, emerging from the darkness of the cage, was something. An elongated, distorted, almost human face with massive, glowing white eyes without pupils. The creature was staring directly into the lens, looking right at us, standing only inches from the back of my friend's head. We didn't tell my father. We were afraid he'd think we were crazy. But since that night, I haven't stepped foot in that basement. Sometimes I dream that those white eyes are still watching me, only now they are looking out from under my own bed. The Hungry Stare at the State Park. Halloween, 2014, Findlay, Ohio. Our local park, Van Buren, always had a dark reputation. Rumors of predators and missing people, but my friends and I were used to training there. That day, I was waiting for my friend Ian in the parking lot. An old silver car was parked nearby. Inside sat a completely bald man. He wasn't just looking at me, he was boring into me with a gaze that felt like animal hunger. His face was frozen in a strange mimicry of a grin. When our eyes met, he slowly nodded, never breaking his stare. I felt a chill run down my spine. I floored it and drove toward the high school, hoping to lose him. In the rearview mirror, I saw the silver junker tailing me, hugging my bumper. I finally lost him in the school lot. I texted Ian, "There's a creep in the park, be careful." I immediately got a reply, "I'm already here." My heart sank. I raced back to the park. Ian's car was there, and 2 spaces away was that same bald man, just sitting, waiting. Ian and I decided not to show our fear and headed for the trails, hoping that together we could fight him off. I gripped a sharp rock in my hand, feeling like prey. When we returned to the cars, the silver vehicle was gone. He had been circling the park, looking for us in the brush. I'm in the Army National Guard now. I'm armed and trained, but every time I drive past that park, I check the safety on my knife, because I know for a fact that man didn't want to say hello. He was choosing which one of us to eat first. The tenant in the closet. In my bedroom, right next to my bed, is a built-in storage closet. It doesn't have a handle, just a heavy wooden panel that you have to pry out of the frame. When I was 19, I woke up for the first time to find that panel standing upright, leaning against my bed. I blamed it on loose fittings and shoved it back in. The next night, at 4 a.m., I woke up to a dull thud. The panel was open again. The room was freezing. I got angry at the broken door and decided to just leave it open until morning. Then I heard it, the faint crinkle of a plastic bag coming from inside the dark closet. There was no draft. The windows were shut. With a trembling hand, I flicked the light switch. Deep inside the closet, huddled among my things, sat a man. He was crouched into an impossible ball, staring at me. As soon as the light hit him, he winced and tried to burrow deeper into my clothes, as if he hoped I wouldn't notice him. I screamed louder than I ever have in my life. My dad came running, but by the time he climbed into the closet, it was empty. He told me it was just a waking nightmare. I didn't believe him. I took my blanket and went to sleep on the floor of my parents' room. An hour later, we all heard my bedroom door creak open. Someone thundered down the hallway, sprinted down the stairs, and bolted out the front door, slamming it behind them. We found an empty storage container in the back of the closet. He had been living there for weeks, watching me sleep from just inches away.